Wow.
All right,
All right.
we are live, Chair.
Well, welcome everyone. I am going to call the meeting to order. This is the Friday, December 2nd meeting of the Thurston Regional Planning Council, and we're going to start with introductions. I will go ahead and read the roster. And if you are here as a voting member for that organization, please introduce yourself. And then I'll ask Executive Director Mark Daly to introduce the staff from TRPC and other organizations who are joining us. So let's get started. Olympia.
Clark Gilman, good morning.
Morning, Clark. How about Lacey?
Robin Vasquez, good morning.
Oh, there you are, Robin. Tumwater.
Good morning, Eileen Swarthout.
Hi, Eileen. How about Thurston County?
Gary Edwards, Commissioner.
Hi, Commissioner Edwards.
Hi.
And Rainier.
Hey, Dennis Bay. Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Dennis. How about Tenino? I mean, the great city of Tenino.
There you go, John O'Callaghan representing the great city of Tenino.
Boy, I am like 6 for 6 already. Yelm, first jump. Okay, we'll come back to Yelm. Bucota. Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation. Nisqually Indian Tribe.
Dave Isles here.
Hi, Dave. How about North Thurston Public Schools?
Gretchen Maska.
Gretchen is here in person. Hi, Gretchen. How about Tumwater School District?
Mel Murray.
Hi, Mel. And from Olympia School District, I'm Hillary Seidel. And what about Intercity Transit?
I'm Don Melnick, subbing for Mayor Sullivan. I'm authority member myself.
Thank you and welcome. How about Lot Clean Water Alliance?
Hi, Carolyn Cox representing Lot.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi.
And Port of Olympia.
Bob Ayel here for the Port of Olympia, and curious why we're having winter during fall.
That's not
Like
winter.
1 week of
That's balmy weather.
nice to see
Maybe
you.
in Tenino.
And the PUD of Thurston County. Chris, we'll come back and check. How about
What?
Thurston Conservation District?
Here, Helen Wheatley.
And Helen is here in person, and Lacey Fire District.
Rick Kelling.
Hi, Rick. Fire District 3, I'm so sorry, Rick. Apologies. Puget Sound Regional Council, they don't usually attend. The Evergreen State College.
Scott Morgan with Evergreen.
Hey, Scott. How about Thurston EDC? And Timberland Regional Library, I saw Cheryl.
Good morning, Cheryl Haywood, and I just want to be clear that we are a non-voting member of the TRPC.
Okay, noted. Perhaps we will note that again in a different time. Okay. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to check back in. Do we have Yelm, Bucota, Chehalis Reservation, PUD? Did any of those folks join us? Okay. Thurston EDC. Oh, Michael today. All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do that, I wanted to just take a moment to recognize the passing of a great community leader, Virgil Clarkson, who was the former mayor of Lacey, also served in TRPC and was the chair of the council. And I know you all join me in mourning his passing and celebrating his contributions. He will be missed, but he has left an important and powerful legacy in our community, and may we all aspire to his kind of servant leadership. So thank you to Virgil. We know you're watching over us, and we will endeavor to make you proud. That brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Edwards, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by someone, multiple seconds. John O'Callaghan moving and Gary Edwards and Gretchen Meliska seconding. You guys can Rochambeau for who gets it. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the approval of the agenda, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand or both.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Great, the agenda is approved. That brings us to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So move, John O'Callaghan.
Is there a second?
Second, Lacy.
Bills.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please signal by saying aye or raising your hand or both.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, the consent calendar is approved. And that brings us to public comment. Now, it's my understanding we have, I don't have that list in front of me, but we do have folks sign up for public comments. And I don't know if they, Berlina, can you let us know if they are all here?
Yeah, we have two people on. Brenda Wilmoth is the first one, and then Dawn Santag, I believe is how you say that last name.
Okay. And actually, before we do that, Mark, I apologize. I got distracted by the screen and I know you need to introduce staff. So we're going to pause and Mark will introduce
Yes.
staff. Who are you?
Actually, Katrina Van Every is going to help me introduce
Okay,
staff.
thanks, Katrina. Sorry.
Good morning. For TRPC staff, we have myself, Mark Daly. I believe Dorinda O'Sullivan is in the room with you.
That's right.
We also have Berlina Lucas. Oh, that's a throwback. Paul Brewster and Karen Parkhurst. From jurisdiction staff, we have Matt Unzelman from Thurston County, Mary Heather Ames from the city of Tumwater, Martin Hoppy from the city of Lacey, Joyce Phillips from the city of Olympia, Jessica Gold from Intercity Transit, Eric Phillips from Intercity Transit. Let's see, we also have Dave Reed from TRPC, and Ann Freeman Manzanares from Intercity Transit, Amy Hatch Winnica from TRPC, and I believe that is it, unless there's anyone else in the room that I missed.
Frank Wilson is attending from OSD as well, but he's in the attendees group. And it looks like Meredith Pinto just joined us from Yelm. Hi, Joe. Great. All right. Got a full house today. Thank you. And again, apologies, Katrina. Thank you for your graciousness. Okay. That brings us to public comment. Berlina, would you let us know who the queue is for public comment so that I'm calling on the right person?
Yeah, so it's Brenda Wilmoth. And then the
Okay.
next one is Dawn Sontag.
Okay.
And that's it so far. I'll let you know if somebody else pops in.
Okay, great. So welcome Brenda and Dawn. You are signed up for public comment. You have 3 minutes. Is someone timing?
I got it.
Okay, Mark will.
So Brenda, when you're ready, unmute yourself and we're ready.
I was hoping that I would get a little more than 3 minutes because I'm here in opposition of the Thurston County Central Airport. And I wanted to share the history of Chambers Prairie, which the community met in June 1st of 1918. And they formed a club for the betterment and the development of East Olympia, which was renamed East Olympia in 1933. The things I'm concerned about in this area is our environment and the impact that the airport would have on the wildlife, the Deschutes River, the biofuels raining down on our children. I have lived here and my grandsons are 5th generations of East Olympia. And so I'm pretty well with the history. I've enjoyed living here and I'm retired now. and I'd like to continue to live here in my pursuit of happiness. I've been a volunteer in the school system. I also am a volunteer for Thurston County. I would like to be able to have this for the future generations. I do not want to live in a mega region. I think that we need to, with our climate crisis, we need to really have deep consideration for what the proposed airport would do to this area. We have beautiful rivers, lakes, waterfalls. We have all various types of wildlife. And I think that is something that those are the treasures and the betterment and the good, the greater good for the future. The laying of cement and the infrastructure that would be needed would completely wipe out East Olympia community. We have the oldest school in Thurston County, which the Waldorf has now. It's on the historical register. The store dates back probably in the same time frame. There was a man in the, I'm sorry, I'll have to read this very quickly. His name was William Broughton, and the county commissioners awarded him $150. And he cleared and grubbed 1,700 feet of road from the Fir Tree Lumber's Company Mill to the old logging road, which led to the Chambers Prairie Station. And we had the depot here. It was renamed East Olympia Depot later. The mail for Olympia was thrown off the train and delivered to the town. The store had meat lockers. It had a traveling library. We have a very vast history of Chambers Prairie. There's the Chambers Prairie Grange. It's now a Starbucks.
Brenda, can I ask you to finish your public comment, please?
Yes, I just want to make a note that I do not feel this is the right place for Thurston County Central Airport proposal. And I want our environment protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brenda. We appreciate your public comment. Next is Dawn Sontag. Dawn, you have 3 minutes and you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, I just want to thank you all for your support actually in opposing the airport in Central Thurston County. We have been working as a group in our community to inform the residents of Thurston County beyond our Greenfield, where I also live. And we've got environmental professionals who are working as a team doing research. We have people who are involved in real estate and real estate assessment, looking at the urban issues, and we are just informing and educating ourselves, and we would be lost without your support. So I am here just to thank you and to ask whether, I don't know what the role of this council is in discussing and supporting rail travel, but that is something that I see is needed nationwide, not just in Washington State, but that could alleviate some of the so-called need for increased transportation. We do see an underlying motive for this airport in profit, and we would like to see other ways of increasing revenue and increasing jobs in Thurston County. So I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Don. We appreciate your public comments.
And we do have one in the person in the room, Gretchen Mueller.
Gretchen, hi, welcome.
I'm sorry, Ursula. Sorry.
Ursula. Ursula, we are at the tail end of public comment.
Slide over
We have
here.
minutes. And Mark, are you on the
I am
timer?
on.
Okay. You may begin when you are ready.
Thank you. Well, good morning. My name is Ursula Mueller. I live in south of Tumwater in Thurston County. I've commented here before. I have been an observer of the WSDOT CAC for 2 years because I thought I would be in the circle. I'm not. However, I have learned enough to where I feel I need to give comment and contribute to the community of which I have been a member since 1994. And I value the community, and I start realizing and learning what a mega airport does to a community, especially since I'm also involved with 350 Seattle, which is a BIPOC community around SeaTac and very active there. Their aviation group is very small. It has been very difficult to deal with aviation, especially large aviation, and with SeaTac Airport and the FAA. So I want to say this morning, sorry, I'm running out of air, that I'm very thankful for the letter that was drafted, which I saw in the materials. It is a very strong letter to the WSDOT CAC, and that is really appropriate. You know me, I have said before, actually, we need to call for the dissolution of the WSDOT CAC this upcoming legislative season, which is starting. They're making committee assignments yesterday and today, so it is starting very soon. I say this because the CAC does not represent people. It represents commerce. It is called the Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission. It represents top management and major shareholders, and that is a conflict of interest because commerce these days, you might have heard of the large gap between wealth and income between the rich and the rest of us. There is a major conflict of interest. Did you know that this goes right along with the difference in income and wealth? Because we all know that the 1% owns some 90% of the wealth in this country. Did you also know that 1% of air travel, or 1% of the air travelers generate 50% of the aviation pollution? So that tells you something about the distribution and of the type of air travelers and what that group consists of. The aviation industry rewards frequent flying. It rewards those who have the time and leisure. Most people do not really fly. There are various research comments on the internet by credible research institutes in the US. On average, a person travels between 1 and 2 times a year. And these are statistics since 2005. When you know now that there's a very uneven distribution, if the average is 1 to 2, there are a lot of people who fly very little or not at all. And there are very few people who fly a lot.
So can you finish your
Yes.
comment?
Thank you, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That business model is untenable, especially with climate cooling, and it inflates demand artificially. Therefore, the letter, coming back to the letter, is appropriately strong because, for one thing, also the growth forecasts by the industry need to be reviewed in detail and in depth. There is much more room to ask the airline industry to adjust its model of rewarding frequent flying. Sorry,
Thank
I
you,
went over
Ursula.
time. I'm working on that. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for your public comment, Ursula. Be sure to get a cinnamon roll back by the coffee. Those who are here in person, I made cinnamon rolls. Thank you to all of our public commenters. We appreciate the public comment. We are all your representatives and we like hearing from you. So thank you very much.
So there is one
that-
more person in attendance, Michelle.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't match the name that registered for public comment. However, she might be, so I'm just wondering if Michelle can be able to speak for a second and see if she had public
Michelle,
comment.
are you here to give public comment? Is she able to speak, Berlina? Oh, yeah. Michelle, are you here to give public comment or just to listen?
She appears to be muted.
Oh, sorry, I can't see very well on the screen. Michelle, you are muted. All right, one last time. Michelle, are you able to unmute and are you here to give public comment? Okay, we will assume that Michelle is here to join us and we thank you for being here, Michelle. That brings us to our other business, and we're going to start with recognition and staff anniversaries. And it's my pleasure to recognize one staff member today to my right, Mark Daly. He is celebrating his 5th anniversary. Mark, here's your certificate. I'm going to read some nice words about you, so get ready.
All right, thank you.
So Mark joined TRPC in 2017 as our executive director. And in that time, he has led the council through 3 retreats in 2017 and 2019, developing and refining a strategic plan for the agency. And again, in 2021, developing an agency vision post-COVID, although are we really post-COVID, but developing and updating the agency mission and values. And Mark works tirelessly at developing and maintaining relationships with TRPC members to further regional collaboration and planning. I will insert something here. The entire reason why I am involved in this organization is because of the wonderful welcome and orientation I received from Mark and other TRPC staff, but the enthusiasm with which I was greeted made a real impact on me and generated some interest and commitment to this collaborative governance model. So thank you for that gift you've
Great
given
to
me,
hear.
Mark. Mark serves as a leader and a mentor to TRPC staff, was strongly supportive of remote work prior to and during the pandemic, and keeps staff retention at the forefront of his thinking. He has brought strong project management skills to the agency, directly oversees our investments in technology, and most recently led the agency through a major reorganization with the departure and pending departure of key staff. Mark has established strong relationships with our state partners and has advocated for regional priorities with the legislature. He has been instrumental in garnering attention to issues around mobility on the I-5 corridor and parallel routes and the need to study high-capacity transportation. Please join me in thanking Mark for his dedicated public service and for 5 years as the executive director for TRPC.
Thank you, everybody. That very nice words. And as the executive director, I'm noticing we are behind on schedule. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I absolutely love this job. And so here's to 5 more. And let's go.
Yeah, it's to 5 more. Thanks for keeping us on track, Mark. All right. That brings us to the 2022 call for projects, the funding recommendations and grant awards. Now, we received a very detailed attachment. Thank you to everybody who went into preparing that. And Paul is going to give us a presentation about the funding recommendations and grant awards. And I'm going to ask that we hold questions to the very end. Paul, is that okay with you? I'd like you to give the full presentation and then let people ask questions afterwards. Does that work?
That works for me.
Okay.
So, good morning, council members. So on your 2022 agenda this year, the TRPC revised call for projects process was front and center. And so today you're taking final action on the call for project process using that revised criteria and process that you, the Transportation Policy Board, and members of the Technical Advisory Committee worked so hard to produce. And this is significant because making decisions about project selection and programming those projects is one of your primary functions as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Thurston County region. So today, staff is requesting that the council take final action on the federal transportation call for projects process by selecting priority projects for grant awards. And last month, the Transportation Policy Board approved a funding recommendation to advise your action today. And that recommendation is outlined in your hefty meeting packet that you received. But I'm going to walk you through that, just give you an overview of that recommendation in my presentation. And copies of the public comments about the projects are also included in your packet. So your action today will result in approximately $11.3 million in federal grants to priority transportation projects that will have a lasting and positive impact on communities throughout Thurston County. So before we just jump into the details of the recommendation, I just want to bring to your attention, we're talking about two federal grant programs. We have the Surface Transportation Block Grant, which is principally used for roadway projects, bridges, tunnels, can be used for, it's the most flexible source of federal highway funding available to states and local agencies. And also the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is used for a whole range of special transportation projects, from bicycle and pedestrian improvements to historic preservation to environmental mitigation, habitat restoration, and outdoor removal of advertising. That's one of my favorites. So TRPC received a total of 21 grant proposals requesting a combined total of nearly $19.3 million. And we're programming out those projects that will be selected for the future for federal fiscal years 2025, 26, and 27. And it's a bit of a puzzle because what was new to our TPOs and MPOs here in Washington State is we now have to program out this funding by an additional geographic area, and that's the urban small, whereas in the past we had urban and rural and flexible, where that flexible can be used to any area, but now with the addition of the urban small, it has changed the proportion of funding that we have available to program. And so today you'll be awarding two types of projects. First is funding secure. These are projects that will receive awards so they can be programmed in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program and subsequently the State Transportation Improvement Program on that 4-year list for award for implementation. And the second is the contingency list, which are those projects aren't funding secure, but if additional funding becomes available through additional obligation authority or redistributed funds or sanctioned funds, we can readily move those projects into obligation. Let's just jump right into it then. So there were 6 factors that informed the funding recommendation that was approved by the Transportation Policy Board. And knowing that we had a limited amount of time for the council to arrive at an action stage at the end of the year, the TPB was limited to its review and recommendation in 1 month. So staff assisted the TPB in crafting a recommendation, and staff used these 6 factors or criteria. The first of which is for our regional criteria, the top scoring points for each geographic area. Those projects that had the top scoring points, 8 points maximum for urban areas and 6 points maximum for urban, small, and rural projects, those top scoring proposals were given priority. Secondly is the applicant's priority. Some applicants submitted multiple proposals, and so the TPB's recommendation gives weight to those proposals that the applicant stated were their highest priority proposals. We also looked at existing regional investments. So projects that have previously received federal funding from TRPC for that design or right-of-way phases were given priority for additional funds over those projects that are brand new that have not obligated any federal funds. And then fourth was funding by geographic area. So we have transportation alternative funds and STBG funds, and we mixed and maximized those to the greatest extent possible within each geographic area to award projects as close to their funding requests as possible. And reduced awards. So when we received all the proposals and completed the technical review, we knew that the request for federal grants exceeded what we could award. So we asked applicants if they could accept less. In other words, could they pony up more local funds to match with the federal funds? And many applicants indeed stated they could. So we leveraged that to be able to distribute more federal grants to projects in the recommendation than otherwise possible. And lastly, to help also spread that funding around and help ensure that we would meet our obligation target, awards are largely limited to one phase for those multi-phase proposals. So single phase awards allow the region to fund more projects, meet obligation targets, and then adds to our list of contingency projects that can leverage emerging funding opportunities. And so I'm gonna walk you through the TPB funding recommendation, and I'm gonna start with transportation alternatives and then work up through the STBG proposals from rural to urban small to urban medium. So starting off with transportation alternatives, before I do, let me just orient you to this slide. This is kind of somewhat reflects what's in your staff report. At the top of the table is the project proposal, the applicant, and their funding requests and their project score. The table below is the detail of the funding award, and it shows which allocation of funding is being awarded. Those allocations that have a strike through are allocations that are ineligible for the type of project that's shown on this slide. And so with transportation alternatives, TRPC only received 2 proposals. We did not have any proposals submitted for the urban small allocation. And I just want to pause to note here that in the one set of public comments submitted by Ms. Karen Mesmer, Ms. Mesmer wanted to observe and express disappointment that there weren't more transportation alternative proposals submitted, as several jurisdictions have approved bicycle pedestrian plans that could leverage these funds for regional improvements for such as trails and other types of bike ped facilities. However, with that said, with the 2 proposals that we received, one from Intercity Transit for the Walk and Roll Youth Education Program, the policy board is recommending fully funding Intercity Transit's request of $660,408 from that urban medium allocation, and fully awarding the city of Tenino's trail design, which would do the design work to extend the Yellow Rainier Tenino Trail from Tenino City Park out to West Tenino city limits, an allocation of transportation alternatives rural of $225,000. So those 2 projects would be fully funded, but that remaining transportation alternatives funds that is left actually really becomes very useful now, because now that funding can be distributed to STBG proposals for eligible costs on those projects and allow TRPC to program out that funding to additional projects. And you'll see how that's used in the next slides. So on to the surface transportation block grant rural. TRPC received 4 proposals. 2 scored 4 points and 2 scored 3 points. And the TPB recommends awarding all $770,400 of the STBG rural funds to Thurston County for its construction phase of the old Highway 99 and Tilley Road intersection improvement project. And then rounding out that full request with an additional $308,000 600 in SCBG flexible funds. And then as part of the TPB's recommendation for those projects that weren't funded, including Tumwater's I-5 and State Route 121 and 93rd Avenue study, the Nisqually Indian Tribes Fleet Electrification Project, and Tenino's Old Highway 99 repaving project, adding those to TRPC's contingency list. So with this strikes out the balance of SCBG rural funds with the county's award. Moving on to SCBG urban small, TRPC received 2 proposals, both scored the maximum 6 points. First one to discuss is the Thurston County Old Highway 99 at Sargent and 201st Avenue. For this, in 2020, TRPC awarded Thurston County $900,000 for PE and right-of-way phases. So this is an existing investment. And Thurston County is requesting, with the council's approval, that the $600,000 rural community program set aside that you approved from the SCBG flexible funds be awarded to this project. And so then the TPB recommendation includes an additional $199,300 in transportation alternatives urban small and transportation alternatives flexible funds, and an additional $64,700 in SCBG flex funds to fully fund the county's funding request on this proposal. Moving on to the city of Yelm. Yelm submitted the Roton Road Northwest Improvement Project. And the TPB is recommending awarding Yelm Roton Road its PE phase only, and the entire $725,800 in SCBG urban small allocation, which would then zero out that balance. And to help fund the remaining portion of Yelm's PE request, the TPB recommends $104,550 in transportation alternatives urban small funds. That would cover the bicycle, pedestrian, street lighting design components of that project, and then another $19,650 in SCBG flexible funds to fully round that out. And so the policy board is recommending that Yelm's right-of-way phase, when costs will be known after the PE phase will be completed, would be added to the contingency list. Okay, so as we go up into the urban area, it does start to become much more competitive. For our SCBG urban medium, TRPC received a total of 8 proposals. On this slide, I'm only showing the 4 that were the top scoring 8-point projects. And these 8-point proposals had a combined request of nearly $10.3 million in SCBG urban medium funds. Tumwater's Dennis Street Roundabout is noted as the city's second priority. And considering S Street Roundabout is Tumwater's highest priority, and TRPC has previously awarded funding for the right-of-way phase, it is Tumwater's, it makes sense that Tumwater's X Street Roundabout construction phase is the preferred funding scenario. And so the TPB recommends awarding Tumwater a total of $2,941,000 in combined funding for the construction phase to complete this project. So this includes $2,620,508 in SCBG urban medium, $320,492 in transportation alternatives urban medium allocation, and this zeroes out the balance on the transportation urban medium allocation. TRPC, moving on to Lacey's College Street Corridor Phase 3. TRPC also previously awarded Lacey's College Street Corridor Phase 3 project the PE phase in 2018. So this is an existing investment for the region. This is also, as part of TPB's award, the single largest award in the call for project. So the TPB is recommending awarding the city of Lacey $3,941,742 through a combination of Transportation Alternative Flex and FTBG Urban Medium funds for the right-of-way phase. And it's noteworthy for me to point out to you that if Lacey is awarded this amount, Lacey is approaching the region's multi-year funding cap that you approved. And to remind you, that funding cap is that an applicant could not receive any more than 33% of the total funding for the first two funding cycles of a three-year call for project, a three call for project cycle. So Lacey, in this case, between now and 2028, would only be eligible for an additional up to $313,000 in awards to TRPC due to that funding cap that you approved. Now, since intercity transit's right-of-way phase costs are not finalized, and the factor that we talked about was funding single phase only, the TPB recommends awarding intercity transit $735,250 from a combination of FTBG Urban Medium and FTB Flex to fully fund intercity transit's PE phase. And this would zero out the balance on the FTBG Urban Medium and flexible allocations. And staff recommends adding intercity transit's right-of-way phase to TRPC's contingency list. But in addition to that, the unfunded requests from both the Tumwater X Street Roundabout and Lacey College Street Corridor would also be added to the contingency list. So this reflects a total of a little over 7.6 million in urban medium FTBG awards. Now, I'm nearing the end here, so I think, yeah. So here is these are the unfunded proposals that I didn't show. These were the remaining four. These are all great projects. Since there's insufficient funding to program these, the policy board is recommending that all four of these proposals be added to TRPC's contingency list. And that is the City of Olympia's Elliott Avenue Sidewalk Project, the Thurston County Yelm Highway Spurgeon Creek Roundabout, and the Old Pacific Highway and Coleman intersection project improvements. Those first three 7-pointers were all very competitive. There just wasn't sufficient funding, and the 8-point projects were given higher consideration. And Olympia's Martin Way scoping study only scored 6 points, although a very competitive, good proposal. This is a good example of a type of project that could readily obligate should we receive additional funding, and studies can move right away. Okay, so in summary, for the Transportation Policy Board's funding secure award totals by applicant, this is just showing you the overall picture of which jurisdictions would receive funding under the TPB funding recommendation. Intercity Transit submitted a total of 2 proposals, one for their East Martin Way Gateway Roundabout project, as well as their walk and roll program. Both were funded. The walk and roll program was fully funded, and Intercity Transit's PE phase was totally funded. City of Lacey had 1 proposal for the College Street Corridor Phase 3 improvements. It was largely funded, not its full request, but at $3.9 million, Lacey says that it can make do with that award. And City of Tenino submitted 2 FTBG proposals for funding secure. Its trail design received full funding from a TA award. Thurston County submitted 4. 2 were awarded. That's the Old Highway 99 improvements, as Old Highway 99 Tilly Road improvements, and the Old Highway 99 Sargent Road 201st Avenue improvements were funded. Tumwater's X Street roundabout, one of its 3 proposals was nearly fully funded, and the Olms Roton Road PE phase was fully funded. So that just leaves those 4 proposals that applicants submitted and requested be directly submitted to the contingency list. 2 of those are from TRPC. TRPC's highest priority contingency proposal was the Freight Goods and Services Mobility Strategy. It also submitted the Countywide Active Transportation, Bicycle and Micromobility Strategy. Both of these projects were already on the contingency list, but TRPC is confirming that these are high priority proposals for the agency to help continue meeting the region's transportation goals and priorities. Lacey submitted the Pacific Avenue Depot District Plan, Olympia's citywide street repair and reconstruction contingency project. This is a good scalable proposal so that if funding does come along, City of Olympia could take whatever feasible amount could be for chip seal projects throughout the City of Olympia on eligible facilities. Likewise with City of Tenino on its Park Avenue repaving project. This could be conceivably scaled as necessary. So that concludes the overview of the Transportation Policy Board's recommendation. Your requested action today is to approve the 2022 Call for Project Surface Transportation Block Grant and Transportation Alternative Grant Awards to priority transportation projects. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you for questions and discussion.
Thank you very much, Paul. We appreciate the thorough report. I'm going to open it up for questions. And as a reminder, I'm going to run a queue where people get priority if they haven't spoken yet or asked a question yet. So I'm going to try and look at the screen and here. So let's see who has questions. And I see Robin is first up. Go ahead, Robin.
I can manage to unmute. Thank you for the presentation. I hear that Lacey is close to the cap on the amount of funding received for a jurisdiction within the 2-year window. Does that include the transportation alternatives bucket of money, or is that separate? Because I hear that, there weren't a lot of applications for that, to build trails or to build bike paths. And so is that included in the cap, or is that something that Lacey could consider next year, even if we don't go out for a large project request?
I would say at this stage, that funding cap is only for urban medium proposals. So projects located in the urban medium area. So the amount of TA funding that Lacey would be awarded for this would count towards Lacey's overall cap.
Thanks, Paul. Clark, you are up next.
Thank you, Chair Hillary. So 2 thoughts I wanted to throw out. I support us passing this, but 2 things that I think we should consider as we move forward. One is that list of evaluation criteria that I think pushes up against the sort of objective application process that we came up with. And as we try to maintain a less political, more objective sort of way of evaluating these, I just think we might want to revisit the whole list of criteria that we ended up with the recommendations. And then I want to agree with Karen Mesmer's comment about the transportation alternatives not having a lot of proposals that were specifically about transportation alternatives. And while I think it's a good use, like to apply it to the College Street corridor, that it feels sometimes like that's grabbing the money that could possibly be for the things that we never have any money for, bike paths or a sidewalk standing alone somewhere, and saying, but there is benefit of making sure that there's a bike path and a sidewalk in this road reconstruction. So I just wanted to share those 2 thoughts, and otherwise I'm supportive of moving forward today.
And if
Thanks,
I'll just, Clark, I just want to share on December 15th when the TPB, we'll give them an update on your action today, but we're gonna debrief with the TPB so that the TPB has an opportunity to discuss and kind of have an after action review on their experience with the call for projects, as well as the TAC and applicants on their experience, so that we can get lessons learned and think about improvements for our next round of call for projects.
Thanks, Paul. Are there any questions from the room? Or any more questions online? I'm like scanning them. I have a quick clarifying question, Paul. If a municipality is awarded contingency funds, that does not count towards their cap, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because those are opportunistic funding opportunities, and it helps us meet our obligation target. So we didn't want to hamstring an applicant if say their primary funded project was programmed at a later time. We didn't want to jeopardize that project from obligating.
Just I echo everything Paul said, and just one more piece to add to that is just a reminder that usually, so we've received some of this contingency funds over the past couple of years. And each time though, as Paul said, it's opportunistic and we have to be able to move really quickly. These funds, we usually get notice of them and they need to be under obligation, under contract, generally within a matter of weeks. And so that's the other part of the contingency list is it is opportunistic. We don't know necessarily when and how much money is going to come, but when it does, we have to be ready to move.
Right, because that speed is what helps generate more opportunity
right.
in the next cycle.
That's right.
So, okay, I just wanted to clarify. I know we've talked about that before, but for the benefit of anyone who might be listening, just a reminder that cap does not apply to the contingency. And I see Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. I was wondering, is this application process open longer? Can we, like, if we have a project that we anticipate for next year, can we start the application process for when it is open?
We are not planning another call for projects until 2024. However, you can start planning for that next call for projects process and thinking about what is a good fit for Yelm for a federal grant.
Okay.
And just the one more thing I'd like to add on that is remember that this money that we're programming out today is for 2025 to 2027. So there's also a danger of planning out too far in advance.
Gotcha.
We could get in a situation where just the details aren't clear enough. And so that's another part of that constraint.
Gotcha. But if we do have some long-term planning, we can start, I don't know, putting like a placeholder for it. So when it does come, it's a lot simpler for us.
Yes, and TRPC staff is always available to partner with the local agencies to discuss and brainstorm those ideas and help your community develop a strategy about what would be a good funding strategy for your projects.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. That's a great question. I imagine folks who are looking at this are thinking, well, how far in advance do we plan to make sure we have something good ready to go? Any other questions from the room or online? Can someone put the slide back up for the motion?
I can put it back up. Just
Thank you,
bear
Paul.
with me here.
I know we need to say the right words.
Thank you, Chair. Getting this one right is an
Let's
important
all
one.
say the right words together. So if there are no additional questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2022 Call for Projects Surface Transportation Block Grant and Transportation Alternatives Grant Awards to Priority Transportation Projects.
So entertaining.
And that's John. Is there a second?
Second, Lacey.
Robin is seconding. Oh, wait. And is there any further discussion? It looks like Joe has further discussion. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just gonna motion. It's all good.
Oh,
Paul, could you go ahead and stop sharing now, please? Thank you.
Okay, so if there is no further discussion, which it doesn't look like there is, all those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand or both. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And are there any abstentions? All right. The motion is approved. Thank you, Paul, and everybody who put lots of great work into this and the many presentations. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to our break. We have scheduled a break and we are on time. So we've scheduled a 10-minute break. Can we do a 10-minute break
You
and then come
absolutely
back?
can.
Okay. So we've scheduled a 10-minute break. It is currently 9:26. We will reconvene at 9:36. And we will come back for a discussion about the potential airport siting in Central Thurston County. See you in 10 minutes.
Short break. You here? Did you do your insulin? Want to do it right now? I got 10 minutes. I have it. Okay, you tell them to sketch it and we'll do it. Someone else, you use the old devices.
You're good.
No.
Yep.
Or not.
No. they're-
Okay.
It's showtime.
Bring us back. We have a discussion planned about the potential airport sighting. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry. We have a discussion plan about the potential airport sighting in Central Thurston County. We did hear some public comment about that. And I just, before I hand it off to Mark, I just want to emphasize, we're going to have a 10-minute presentation from Mark. We're going to have a discussion then among council members. We may or may not take action. So we have not committed to action at all. And I am going to run the queue prioritizing voices not heard. I'm going to run a robust discussion, but ask for folks to make space for everyone to contribute. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to you, Mark.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen really quick. I've got a very short presentation because we've already, whoops, there we go. Already talked about this before. And yet I want to make sure that we all kind of have a baseline of understanding of where we've been and what the potential is as you have this discussion and consider taking possible action. So as a reminder, the Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission, they refer to themselves as the CAC. They were created by the state legislature in 2019 with the express purpose of recommending, the date has shifted due to COVID and such, but now the date is June 15th, 2023, but their charge has remained the same, which is providing the legislature with a single recommended site for a new airport. I'll use the word greenfield. I will try not to, but it slips out because that's how they're referring to it. And all they mean by greenfield is developing an area into an airport that currently doesn't have an airport. And so a new airport is what we're talking about. We briefed council, I briefed council on this issue at the October meeting. Wanted to make sure the Transportation Policy Board received the same information, so provided pretty much the same briefing to Transportation Policy Board in November. And at that meeting, the Transportation Policy Board decided to take action. And they did vote to recommend that council take a position of opposition to an airport being sited in Thurston County. And TPB directed staff to draft a detailed letter. What TPB wanted to see was a letter based on the work of our organization and how citing an airport and how this process kind of relates to the work that we do as TRPC. The TPB didn't want a general letter of opposition. So that is why what you saw in your packet is a fairly detailed letter of the issues that have been identified. That's what Transportation Policy Board requested staff to do in the draft letter. So I'm now just going to go through, obviously this draft was in your packet. I hope people had a chance to review it, but I am going to just step through the main points to make sure that everybody has a good understanding of what this letter covers. So in the first part, it states an opposition to consideration of a Thurston County site for new airport development. And it urges the CAC to not submit a single recommended site by June 15th, 2023. And the reasoning behind that is because of the process. The 10 sites didn't come out until August of 2022, the 10 potential sites for a new airport. And less than a month later, the CAC recommended those 3 sites to go forward, including the one in Thurston County. There is not information publicly available on the website to explain that decision to go from 10 sites down to 3. And there's less than a year before that the recommendation is due to do a great deal of assessment in relation to transportation impacts, land use impacts, human health, tribal treaty rights, just a long list of things that need to be analyzed and less than a year to do so. And so that's why the letter suggests that the CAC not recommend a single site by June 15th, 2023. The letter then starts talking about some of the specific potential impacts and how they relate to work of our region from a climate perspective. The letter suggests that the CAC spend some time defining what an airport of the future is. Their work to date has talked about how an airport that's built by 2040, 2050 is not going to look at all like SeaTac or operate at all like SeaTac. And yet there aren't a whole lot of details about what that means. And so the suggestion is that the CAC spend more time getting a better understanding of what that airport of the future would look like. Therefore, what would the expected emissions be from that? How would it affect our carbon sequestration efforts in the region? Those are questions that need to be answered and likely cannot be in the amount of time remaining. Housing and sprawl. The airport and associated infrastructure, which and the supporting residential, commercial, and industrial development that would inevitably occur if an airport is developed is inconsistent with our goals in sustainable Thurston and some of our Thurston climate goals, as well as the State Growth Management Act. This would be citing an airport in our rural areas, and we have planned for long time rural development in those rural areas. So this would be a major change to the land use and our planning for the region. For salmon recovery, the site is on Spurgeon Creek, and therefore potentially compromises salmon recovery efforts, and specifically expressing our concern of the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis, our members, and the impacts on salmon and cultural resources for our members. And so the summary statement overall is that TRPC cannot support the current CAC process for recommendation in this time frame because of the reasons stated above and the need to look at these potential impacts comprehensively, and that there isn't adequate time to do that by June 15th, 2023. And that for some of the specific reasons around environment equity and such, we are opposing siting of the airport in the Thurston region. And so that is the overview. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, that is the overview of the letter. And so there are at least 4 directions that council could go this morning. And so wanted to, before opening the discussion, wanted to kind of lay those out. The council could decide not to take a position on airport siting at this time. Basically, no one would make a motion to submit the letter in that case. The council could move to send the draft letter developed by staff as presented to be signed by the chair of the council and transportation policy board. Third option could say, yeah, we want to send a letter, but this isn't quite it. Work with the chairs to come up with a letter and either bring it back to us, the council, in January, or you could choose to allow the chairs to amend the letter and decide to send it in. And then another issue that's been brought up is whether or not members, because the difference between our organization and some of the organizations that have taken a position to date is we have 23 members. And so some have said, we need more time to vet this letter with our organization before I could feel comfortable voting for or against this letter. And so that's why that fourth option is we could consider bringing this back in January, giving members a month to vet the letter and position within the organization. I'm sure there are other options, but those are four just to kind of help frame the discussion. And so with that, I will turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. And just as a point of, to address the last issue, my organization is in that pickle. Since we put this on the agenda and now we haven't had a general meeting. I can't bring this to the school board for their deep consideration, and I can't take an action and put the school district as affirmative or negative on this. And so that's part of, I brought that issue up to Mark, is that because of the scheduling of board meetings around the Thanksgiving holiday and the winter break, that is a challenge for us, and we would need more time before I could vote one way or another. Okay. That said, I see that we have some hands up, and I'm gonna go, I'm gonna focus on folks who have not spoken yet. And so if there's anybody who wants to share, please raise your hand and I'll run the queue. So we're gonna start with John and then Joe, unless someone else jumps in who hasn't talked yet. Go ahead, Don.
Oh, okay, I guess I'm not speaking on behalf of Intercity Transit. I'm speaking as an engineer who's been through site selection processes before. And the really thing our letter doesn't touch on is the process that the CAT used to, even from the beginning, they had more sites, had been identified. They went through some sort of an objective process by applying some sort of criteria to narrow the selection. And as far as I know, nobody at this table, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, has seen that process. What criteria did they apply? I share people's concerns about not wanting it here, but it seems to me like public involvement has been sorely lacking since this whole episode in terms of trying to explain what was going on. And I think that's something that our letter should address.
Thank you, Don. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just want folks to realize this isn't going to make a big difference here, one way or the other. If we send this letter, if we don't send this letter, all jurisdictions are doing the same. All throughout every site, no one's supporting this. No one wants an airport in their area. This group is getting letters by the hour. Everyone's opposed to it. I'm not trying to say that TRPC isn't impactful and they're not going to listen to us. Take our words into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's a legislator's call. Our local legislators are against it. The people are against it here locally. You heard testimony. We shouldn't overthink this, you guys. It's just a simple letter here. They're not going to remember it here when they make the decision. They'll take it. And just like with all the hundreds and maybe thousands of letters that they're getting from other individuals and jurisdictions and all that. So I would urge us just to go ahead and sign this letter and move on.
Bob, go ahead.
Well, I would like to bring up a point. The letter cites the Port of Olympia and being against that. The Port of Olympia did sign on to the letter that the county proposed or sent. However, we have yet to formalize our own position and that letter. We're in the process of considering a letter of opposition, but what that actually looks like, we don't really know yet. So I'm kind of though Port of Olympia is certainly against the proposed site for an airport. I would like to better understand why the policy board feels that such a detailed letter is necessary. I can answer that.
Well, John, do you want to go?
John he sits on both. So
Okay.
I sit on the transportation policy
Yeah,
board as
John,
well.
you're in the queue. Go ahead.
And Tenino has also signed on to the letter that the county has, and it was unanimous. Not one of us said that this was a good idea. Why is this an important letter? Because we are the metropolitan planning organization for Thurston County. first and foremost. If anybody should be sending a letter out, a strong letter against this, it should be us. We have not received it. Mark's not even on the board to have our voice considered. He's got to watch it on TVW, so he knows what the heck's going on. This is our county. These are our people, and our people are saying no, not just this time, but since I've been on this board, it's been 2 other times when they tried to expand the Olympia Airport. And everybody in Thurston County said no, and it's not changing now. That's why we need to, as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, take a strong stance against having that airport here, because the people that have put us in these seats have let us know that's exactly what they expect of us now.
And so,
Let me respond.
Bob, do you have a clarifying question?
I just want to respond, and I appreciate, John, I appreciate your passion for this, and I agree with you. I've heard maybe 2 comments in all the comments I've received as a port commissioner about this airport. I've heard maybe 2 positive comments towards a new airport. My concern with the letter is that I have not had time to share this with my commission, and we have not formulated how we would like to approach this opposition. And so I can't vote in favor of this today. I would need to take this back to my commission and make sure that we're all.
You said you signed on to the one from the county, correct?
Yes, we did.
How much time did you take with that one?
Well, that letter was more direct and was just an opposition to the airport. It didn't go into all of this detail.
And then that's another thing that I wrote down. I have a little concern about as well. But it took you 1 meeting to sit down there, look at the letter and say, yes, this is something that we support. Now, as far as the other point that I had, this actually looks more like a laundry list. If you guys do this, and this, then we'll go ahead and possibly agree to have the airport here. That's how I see that letter. I don't particularly care to send a committee that gave us no notification or authority to sit in that board for our county, for our people, to give them a laundry list of things that they could say, oh, look, Thurston County saying if we can do this, and this, that we'll be fine. No, we're not fine with it. We've never been fine with it. I've held office in Thurston County since 1996 and never have anybody that I've talked to and met, and this type of a thing came up, anybody ever agreed with it. There was even some opposition to try to bring in some commuter air before in the past. They brought them in, they failed because Thurston County just did not support it.
Okay.
And it's not changed yet.
I just want to, we've got a queue lining up here.
Okay.
So John supports that we vote yes today. Helen, I see you. And then I'm going to go Dawn, Clark, and Joe, unless somebody who hasn't spoken wants to throw their hat. Oh, Carolyn. Sorry, Carolyn. I'm going to go Carolyn, Dawn, Clark, and Joe. Go ahead, Helen.
Okay, well, I see Mark sort of waving around.
Could
And
I
I actually, let me just say, I mean, what I was gonna raise was going back to Meredith Pinto's comment. Could you, Mark, maybe explain really briefly what a letter enables TRPC to do that it wouldn't be able to do if it didn't have the letter? Because I believe that was part of the discussion, is that it's important for you to be able to work on this issue, to have this letter so that there's clarity.
No, I don't think that's quite right. Because the discussion at Transportation Policy Board, there was a lot of this same kind of sentiment that went out, which is why eventually, because there were also folks that were concerned about, should we really be doing this, taking this opposition now? Should we be letting the process play it out? And so to help with that issue, then that's when the direction was given. We'll make it very specific. Don't have it be just we oppose an airport. Get into why we oppose an airport. So that is the reason that you are looking at a much more detailed letter. There was a lot of passion in the discussion at Transportation Policy Board. And there was still some apprehension too of, can we take this action as a 23-member unified group? This quickly right now, etc. So that's just the other part I'd like to frame in terms of what I had mentioned before is when we first found out about this airport location, I reached out to the chair and vice chair to have us included. They said that they would. I haven't been contacted by them again. What I had told council and Transportation Policy Board is taking a position could color TRPC's participation in their process when we are called. But as staff, we can deal with that. So I don't think as staff, we need or don't need the letter. We can work with it either way.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that clarification. Let's go to Carolyn.
Okay, three things. First, I want to thank Mark for the thoughtful presentation that he gave to the Lacey City Council about this. It was very thorough and enabled us to make a decision that very evening to sign on to the letter. So thank you, Mark. Two, I strongly support the idea of TRPC submitting a letter. I do want to honor the requests by Hillary and Bob to wait until January. I think, having everybody together on this is really important. And if there's organizations that aren't quite there, I think we risk jeopardizing our solidarity a bit. So I think that we'll still be timely on this. And third, I was part of a meeting the other night with our current and future 22nd legislative district delegation. And I was able to put the question to them, what, if anything, can they do to keep the airport out of Thurston County? And they are all working behind the scenes and planning to vote no on that. But out of that conversation, a really, to me, very interesting element that I had not heard before was water rights. That this area that they're talking about does not have water rights, and airports consume a lot of water. So that might give us a leg to stand on, a firm one, in opposing that. So there's my 3 cents.
Thank you, Carolyn. You could give more than 3 any day. Let's go with, we're gonna go Don, Clark, and Joe, and then, oh, I'm sorry, Rick and Dennis both. No. Rick and then Dennis, and then we'll go Don, Clark, and Joe. Rick.
So comment. So I have not read all of the other letters submitted by the county commissioners or the other municipalities. I think I can see both sides of this organization sending a letter. On one side, it's a planning organization. And with that, it doesn't implement or make policy. However, the way the letter is framed, it's appropriately framed because it identifies those issues and those processes that this body addresses and perhaps have not been pointed out by the municipalities. On the other hand, there are going to be so many impacts that the process and the timeline don't allow for. If nobody says anything about that, then it has the potential to be overlooked. Thank you.
All good points. Thanks, Rick. Dennis.
One thing I have heard no discussion about is the impact this would have not only in Thurston County, but on JBLM. this airport site touches Rainier. And if you're familiar with Rainier at all, we have a major helicopter training area for JBLM. We have an active drop zone for JBLM. It is a main thoroughfare for other training aircraft for JBLM and McCord. And have we solicited or received any input from them as to how this might affect them and thus our region?
Joint Base Lewis McChord has been very active with the CAG staff and have made their concerns very clear, including all that you have just said. And one of the things in the enabling legislation was that a siting of a new airport cannot conflict with military operations. And that wording I'm sure is wrong, but in general, it was can't conflict with our military base operations. And so JBLM is actively working the issues you just said, which is why I leave that to the experts.
It would be a death knell for them. I mean,
They are very engaged.
Okay.
Thank you, Dennis. And I think there was a mention of coordinating with them in the letter, like just kind of a little sentence.
Could be.
Yeah,
don't have
but
to
very
memorize.
diplomatic. Gretchen, and then we'll go to the next time queue. Go ahead, Gretchen.
Well, while I do actually fly way more than twice a year for business, and I am not part of the 1%ers, and typically as a district, we don't take up not in my backyard issues, but this is a significant issue. It is our job to listen to the voices of our constituents, and it is our job to present this to our legislators and the partners that are involved here. But as we move forward with this vote, we need to take into consideration sustainable Thurston and where we're going with that and how we're advertising the moves that we're making. So as we add warehouses and different kind of businesses into our neighborhoods in our communities, we need to take into consideration those moves as we're saying no against something like this as well.
That's a good point. Thanks, Gretchen. Okay, now, Don, you're up.
Thank you. There were 2 Sundays ago, there was a tremendous, very long article in the Seattle Times Sunday section, which framed all of what's going on. Didn't mention anything about the process, but made clear what the legislature is doing is deciding what is best for the state. And that, in my mind, that means one site, whichever one is selected, is going to lose as an individual county or jurisdiction. And to me, and then the last statement in the Times article was to the effect that this process is going to take a long, long time, and it's going to end up in court. And I couldn't agree more, which I think to me brings up, we have to question how they got here and how they're going to make their selection, because that's the only thing that's one of the main things that'll be debated in court. Was the process equitable and fair? Did it consider all the criteria that it should have? And so I would urge that if we do a letter, and I'd certainly be willing to wait another month to see that, but the letter should make clear, we don't understand the process because it hasn't been made clear to us. And therefore we question the whole exercise. And just to make clear that that's a main concern.
Thank you, Don. Clark, go ahead.
There we go. Thank you. Similar to Gretchen's concern, I was struck that primarily I hear our letter talking about this particular site in East Olympia, and I think Mark made a rational argument about why the site's not a good site. But the climate paragraph is interesting to me because it begs the question: are we generally opposed to having a second large airport in Western Washington? And if so, then can we simultaneously be recruiting distribution centers and not campaigning against overnight instant online shopping? Because the airport does serve, I mean, it was, Ursula's point that it's a relatively few people who travel often for leisure. That's not the majority of what moves through SeaTac Airport. It's business, people travel, and freight. So if we're opposed to the airport, let's have our actions and our support for the climate plan back it up. Otherwise, let's take that out and let's just be NIMBYs saying, put it in East King County or somewhere else, don't put it here. So.
Thank you, Clark. Joe, go ahead. Joe, can you hear us? Oh, you're muted.
Yep,
Joe.
sorry, I thought Dawn was up. My bad.
No.
Yeah, so I just think that again, for what it's not the perfect letter. There's things in it I'm sure that different jurisdictions might not necessarily agree with, but the overall message is the opposition to the airport. And we could chat about all these different semantics about it and all this, but I get it. So at the end of the day, right now, I like to move that we approve the letter being sent to the CACC.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Further discussion?
Yeah,
Oh, Dennis, Bob, you guys want to Rochambeau, rock, paper, scissors for it?
Go ahead, Dennis.
no,
Oh, Carolyn, is that an old hand or no, it's down. Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
It's back up.
Oh. Dennis, Bob, then Carolyn.
Gretchen mentioned sustainable Thurston. And sadly, I think the sustainable Thurston plan has become a joke. We're not following it. I remember all the years we spent working on that and passing it. But here in Thurston County, where we're now talking about sustainability in this letter we wanted to send opposing the airport, we have taken hundreds of acres, of deep tillable, good agricultural land, turning it into housing projects, parks, parking, and to now pop up and say, oh, airport, gee, this is gonna just ruin our sustainability, is disingenuous. And we should be very careful about that.
Okay. And I see Eileen is in the queue, so I'm gonna bump Eileen up and then we'll go to Bob and Carolyn. There is a motion on the table, just FYI. Go ahead, Eileen.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been making notes of all the different arguments that people have been bringing up, and I do appreciate what has been said at this point. Part of me agrees with Joe that we just to send the letter, but out of respect for the groups that need to have to check with their who they represent, their boards, that we, out of respect, that we probably should wait and let them have a chance to weigh in on before we take this vote. So I would be, like I said, in favor of postponing this. So.
Thanks, Eileen. Bob, do you want to weigh in? And then we'll go to Carolyn.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that the port is against the airport. The site that is the CAC has recommended for the airport. All I'm really asking is that we wait until the next meeting to approve this letter. And to Joe's point, if really all we're saying is we're against the airport at that site, why aren't we just saying that? But I would like the opportunity to take this back to the Ports Commission, discuss it with them. And so I would move to amend the motion to approve the letter for consideration with a final vote at the January meeting.
I would second that.
Wait. Robert's rules. Do we have to approve the?
There is
amendment?
already a motion on the floor.
There's an amendment.
There's a motion.
So
You
now-
have to. No.
No,
It has to be up to the person who made the motion.
Yeah.
It's a friendly amendment.
We can offer, so Bob, you would like to offer a friendly amendment to John's motion?
Joe's.
Joe's motion, so you have a friendly.
I believe that an amendment is voted on separately.
Yes,
If the amendment is accepted, then it becomes part of the motion and the motion can be either accepted or denied.
I don't believe that.
Joe would not would you like us to vote on the amendment, Joe? I think we can do a friendly amendment where Joe says that's fine, but if we want to follow the.
I appreciate it. And Bob, I respect the heck out of you, man. I just want to get this vote done. I mean, if it fails, it fails. We can bring it up again in January, which, you know, there's a good chance. I would ultimately like to see it just be plain Jane type of a, we oppose this airport. Again, I don't think it's going to make a huge dent in the legislators' minds. They're already against this. I would just like to move forward. So unfortunately, Bob, I am not going to accept the friendly amendment.
So then Bob can move to amend the motion and we can amend it by vote. That's our other option, I think, right?
That's always an option.
Okay, would you like to do that, Bob?
Yes, I move to amend the motion to move the consideration for a final vote to the January meeting.
Second.
Okay, so the amendment has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about the amendment to move consideration of the letter to the January meeting? So Carolyn and Joe, you have your hands up. Do you have discussion on the amendment? Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I just like to see a point of order. I don't believe it's germane to my motion.
So you would like us to vote up or down on the motion? Okay.
No, what I'm saying is my motion is, you can't say like, I think we should send a separate letter to say bears are great. I don't believe that it's the same thing. You could make a friendly amendment to like say in the letter should also include something, but it cannot, again, you're the chair, it's your decision if it's relevant or not to it. But my motion was to pass the letter. If his motion is to pass the letter in January, that'd be fine. But my motion is to pass the letter, not to delay it or anything.
Okay. So in the interest of clarity, and I think I understood maybe the motion to be different than what Bob actually said. So I think I understood the motion to be like an approval of the letter to be brought back to constituencies and approved in January. But I hear what you're saying, Joe, and I think you're probably right to just let's be clear about it. So there's a motion on the floor to approve the letter. It sounds like there might be an alternative motion as well, if this motion is not approved. So is there any discussion on the existing motion, which is to approve the letter and send the letter? Carolyn.
Thank you. Well, with all due respect to Joe, I would encourage my fellow members to vote down his motion and approve a new motion to take this to January when all of our constituencies have had a chance to think about this and come back prepared to vote in January.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Is there any other discussion of Joe's motion, which was seconded by John, that is on the table?
Just have one question,
John, go ahead.
because this issue is now, what, 4 months before this board and Transportation Policy Board. How much time? That's a lot of time to have that discussion with your individual boards. And apparently some of you already have, because you signed on to the contract. So I do not understand the delinquency.
Okay.
Can somebody explain that?
I'm not going to answer that question because Commissioner Edwards has his hand up. And so I'm going to go ahead and give Commissioner Edwards the floor.
I just want to take this opportunity to say that the county has already voted as a group that we oppose this airport. And because of that, I'm not, I recognize everybody's got their individual concerns, but I don't think we'll ever be able to come up with an adequate list of reasons why. And I don't know that that's necessary. I really think the letter needs to be as simple as, for a multitude of reasons, we oppose this airport. And those that want to sign on to it can sign on, and those that want to sign on later can sign on. So that's why I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay, just for point of clarification, if we vote here, we're all signing on to it as TRPC members. So it's not an individual yes, no on the letter. And because I will answer the question that John posed. The school district is not in the practice of having advisory votes on municipal planning. They rely on me and Gretchen and Mel and other members who don't actually have that as a part of their regular agenda to come here, to take information from here and present it back to them that is relevant to our work. I have not had a letter or a position from TRPC to be able to present to my board of directors before now. And so that's why it's not delinquency. My work is about making sure that the 9,300 students in my school district are getting the best quality education they possibly can. And I prioritize the policy and budgetary decisions in our meetings that are relevant to that. I will bring things from TRPC back to those meetings when I have something to bring. I haven't had anything until now. So that's why. I don't know if anybody else wants to address that issue, but does anybody else have discussion on the motion on the table, which is to be approved, to approve the letter as written and sent?
Call for the question.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand or both.
Aye.
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 Are we counting? Because we might have a.
I hear.
I would suggest a roll call vote.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Good idea.
I'll keep track.
You want to do the, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I know who's here because I have the attendance. Okay. City of Olympia,
No.
City of Lacey,
Yay.
City of Tumwater,
No.
Thurston County,
Yes.
Rainier,
No.
Tenino,
Yes.
Yelm. Joe, are you?
I'm
yes?
sorry. Yes.
Keep me on my toes, Joe. Okay, we don't have Dakota or Chehalis, Nisqually.
Dakota would be no. I mean, yes, we will.
Dakota. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Robert. I didn't see you were here. Thank you for correcting me. Dakota's no?
Yeah, send it.
He's a yes. Oh, you're a yes?
Yep.
Yes on the letter.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Nisqually Indian Tribe,
No.
North Thurston Public Schools. Yes. Tumwater School District,
No.
Olympia School District votes no. Intercity Transit,
No.
Lot Clean Water Alliance,
No.
Port of Olympia.
No.
Okay, and then do our non-voting members don't vote on the letter, correct? Okay.
Those have it.
So what is the,
9 no, 6 yes.
okay, so the motion did not pass. Is there another, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Edwards has his hand up. Did you have a comment, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I was just, you said hand up or voice.
Oh,
and I
I'm
did
so
both.
sorry. Thank
I'm
you for
sorry.
following instructions. Not celebrate that. Okay. So is there a different motion? Does anybody want to make an alternate motion?
I move that we bring this back at the January meeting.
Does anybody want a second? Second, was that Joe?
Yep.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we move this item for consideration to the January meeting to give all members time to bring it back to their bodies for consideration. Is there any further discussion on the item? Mark?
I've got a question for council, which is there's been a lot of mention of people being more comfortable with a more concise, we're in opposition letter. I'm wondering whether staff should be directed to draft such a letter as another alternative to the proposed letter.
Can we vote on this motion and then direct staff? Okay, let's do that. Is there any discussion about the motion that is on the table? Clark, go ahead.
I just want to suggest that if we're going to honor the concern of the organizations who said they wanted to bring the letter back for their organization to consider it, then directing staff to write a different letter is going to put us in the same pickle in January.
I agree, Mark. I agree, Clark.
Joe.
Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, I don't see why we can't just draft a new letter and send it out where everyone can look at it and bring it to their, I mean, we don't physically have to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but can't we just draft a new letter by middle of next week or so? And then send it out to everybody and then have that.
I
brought
can
to-
answer that question, Joe.
please.
Gretchen and I only have a board meeting next week. And then we won't have another one until after the next TRPC meeting because of the school calendar. So
Can we get it drafted before that? Before your meeting?
can
Set out?
we, are we able to vote on the motion and then
Separate question. Joe.
address the separate
All right,
question?
all right.
Okay,
Fair.
we're moving the item for consideration to the January agenda. Is there any more discussion about the motion to move the item for consideration to the January agenda?
We're talking about this specific letter.
Yeah.
Moving
One-
and moving the letter question to the January agenda, and then we're gonna talk about other amendments needed to the or edits.
No, I don't think that was the motion.
No, it's not. We have to vote on the motion of moving the letter question to the January agenda, and then we have to have a separate
No,
discussion.
that's not
That's not what I heard. I heard a motion to move.
this letter.
This letter.
This
This
specific
is-
letter, is that what
Correct.
you said? Oh,
Yes.
okay, well, then we have to move this specific letter. Thank you for correcting me.
Certainly opposed to that. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of nays who don't like this letter. They want to be more generic and just specifically say no. So I'm,
Okay, so we're voting on moving this specific letter to the January agenda. Yes, Bob.
Just one last comment from me. I think that this motion, voting on this letter is appropriate. I think we should, at least I want to respect the policy board's recommendation. And so I am willing to take this letter back to my commission and get their input.
Okay. Any other discussion about the motion, which is to move this specific letter to the January agenda to give the members time to bring it back to their respective bodies?
Call for the question.
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure. And I want to emphasize folks who are attendees, do not participate in council discussion because I see there's an attendees group. Okay, so seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of moving this letter to the January agenda for consideration, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Robert and Git, Bucota and Thurston County. Any opposed?
yes,
Dennis is a no.
no.
Okay. Are you messing with me, Dennis? Dennis is a no. Any other opposed to moving this letter to the January agenda? Okay, any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. And it sounds like we don't have a discussion about the content because we've just approved the actual letter. Okay,
Doesn't
Wow.
have to be the best.
We actually haven't approved the letter. We've approved moving.
approve the letter to,
Move forward.
thank you, Bob. Wow, that is some brain gymnastics. Okay, folks, give yourself a stretch break. Robert, do you have a hand up or is that a hand up from the vote? I think it's a hand up from the vote. Okay, give a little stretch out because now we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is the 2023 state legislative issues with Karen Parkhurst. Hey, Karen.
Hi, good morning to everyone. Berlina will be sharing my screen today. So as we talked about, we are moving forward on the legislative priorities that you have determined. We wanted to show you what it looks like in its pretty form and remind you what the issues are. So next slide, please. The first one has to do with I-5, and this basically is a reminder to our legislators that we want to hold our place in this. that we are not asking for additional funding. We're wanting to make sure that they maintain the funding that's already been provided. Was there a comment? No, I'm sorry. And so that's what this piece is about, is continuing the effort and making sure that folks know that we are interested in having that preliminary engineering of part-time shoulder use. And we once again, unfortunately, have a really good example of what happens when I-5 closes down from several weeks ago when we had the tractor trailer incident and hijacking. And we are, just so you know, gathering data on what happened, where people went, what the holdups were, because it certainly helps us remind the legislators that this is a vital corridor for freight and for people movement. Okay, next slide. The next piece is our rural state highways as the main street. And this really deals with the fact, I think this is a great picture that shows that our rural community have Main Street, which is a state highway. And that means that there are some safety issues and considerations of making sure that we can all make use of these corridors, that we're helping kids walk to school at the same time that we're moving logging trucks through. And so we have done a lot of effort at the local level and at the regional level to look at these projects, and what we need to have happen is for them to move forward and do a little more work on them so that we can make them ready for other state and federal funding. Next slide. The regional airport, we've just had a discussion on. We will change up this slide in January after you take action or don't take action to approve the letter. So this doesn't say we oppose it. It just says some facts about the process. Again, we'll update this when you take action. Next slide. Broadband is on our list, and I know there have been some concerns about the sort of middle funding for broadband, and a new map just came out from the federal government, and I know some communities are having some problems with that map because that pinpoints where funding at the federal level would be available. And so this is basically saying, hey, we really appreciate the broadband effort that's happening, but let's make sure that we're continuing to position ourselves to take advantage of funding and that middle mile kind of connections. So this remains on the list. Next slide. Rural mobility grants. This is a small specific piece. The Department of Transportation at the state level manages a regional mobility grant program that provides funding for big transformative kinds of projects. Metropolitan planning organizations or regional planning organizations such as ourselves are not eligible applicants. And we believe that partnering with local jurisdictions, this would provide some funding that makes sense. I mean, regional is in the title of the grant, regional mobility. Why wouldn't our regional planning organizations be part of this? And so we'll just be saying, could you consider adding metropolitan planning organizations to eligible applicants? We are not considered a local government under the definition used in this grant program legislation. Next slide. And then we always talk about this sort of general statement that really talks about, let's remember that the locals and the state and the Fed share the responsibility to support our communities. And we want to be really clear that we need to have funds at the state level, at the local level, at the regional level to take appropriate action. So this is a nice way of saying, please don't sweep the Public Works Fund. We might not say it in that way, but when the state sort of usurps some of those fundings that are available to the local folks, then we're not able to serve our constituents in an efficient way. Next slide. And then finally, we have a few other transportation issues that we will sort of tack on as we're talking. And that is that we are supportive of public transportation, including rural and special needs transit, and that we want to continue to support that grant funding. And then preserving and maintaining the entire multimodal system and completing current projects. So there's the Yelm Loop. And some of the other pieces that we care about. So it is not that we are just saying I-5 is and the rural community projects are the only things we care about. We have some general policies in our community about multimodal transportation and about funding projects that are already in the system. Next slide. So that's the end of just sort of the reminder of what's happening. I wanted to bring up a few other things to just remind you. The legislative session starts on January 9th. It is an 105-day session. It's the long session. We have the same majority in the House and Senate. I think that there's a 1-seat change. The legislative folks, if you haven't noticed, are in town this weekend. This is the December committee weekend when they are meeting to deal with issues, but they are also dealing with what are the committees going to look like, who are the chairs going to be, who are the members going to be. And so I'll be sending out, once that is all done, information on that. The governor's budget should be out in the next couple of weeks before the end of the month. And so then we'll be able to look at that and see what has moved into that. We'll start seeing pre-filed bills on Monday, and that's the opportunity before session for people, members to bring their bills to the table. And we have our first meeting this afternoon with our legislative delegation. Will be meeting with Representative Barkas, who, as far as we know, remains the chief transportation negotiator for the minority party in the House. And so we'll be bringing this issue to him, and then we will continue to have meetings. And then it's not the legislative session without moving forward rumors. So here's some rumors. These aren't juicy. What we're hearing is that climate is a primary issue. You might have read that the Minority Caucus is bringing out a climate bill and some climate legislation. So it sounds like we're going to be having that conversation. The second piece that we are hearing from just about everyone is the concern for safety in transportation. The numbers that we are all seeing for fatalities, for pedestrian deaths, for deaths and injuries for people with disabilities that are happening, the rate of speed that is happening. And so it sounds as though safety in the transportation system will be a critical piece. We are hearing, again, rumors that we might see some bills that might lower the blood alcohol amount to be considered a DUI or a DWI. We are hearing that we may be dealing with some red light cameras, especially in construction zones. And then there's some conversation, which is kind of a major one. So level of service, you've heard us talk about that, LOS, that basically says, you know, we're going to give a grade to the traffic going through this particular intersection, and we're going to say it's an A through an F, from free flowing to not doing well at all. There's a conversation that Department of Transportation is required to maintain and support those level of service goals. And so when they lower the speeds on one road, currently with their current level of service measurement, they need to raise the speed on another road so they can get the traffic throughput. So it is, and I know many of our jurisdictions, Olympia, Lacey, others have looked at a multimodal level of service that doesn't just favor cars. So again, rumor about a conversation on this. So I think as we start seeing pre-filed bills, I will share those with you. As we start seeing bills introduced, I'll share those with you. But, you know, and I will also tell you that I remember the day at the legislature when the Speaker of the House told me exactly what was going to happen in an afternoon. And within 3 minutes, a whole different direction went. So these are rumors. This is what we're hearing this week, and I'm happy to share them with you. But I think, especially the safety emphasis, I think we may want to encourage our traffic engineers and folks that are working on safety issues, especially for vulnerable populations, that we have some examples to bring forward to the legislature about that. Mark, did you want to add anything else to that?
For ledge,
Okay.
no. Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know that we also work with a community partnership that Mark is involved with that is moving forward some issues that are of importance to the jurisdictions as well. So
Well,
we are
so
always,
I will mention that then Karen, we participate on the Thurston Legislative Partners Group that the chamber convenes. There's some similarities to the priorities there. And we also participate with South Sound Military and Communities Partnership in their legislative agenda. And I-5 is one of their priorities, similar wording to what we have. So we're definitely coordinating with other multi-jurisdictional sorts of groups on making sure our regional voice is heard with legislators.
yes. And we also continue to look for partnerships, Association of Washington Cities, counties, school districts, whenever we're able to have that leverage that other folks support what we're doing and we can support in principle what they're doing. It's always helpful to have a multitude of voices at the legislature saying, here's why we think this is a good idea. So I will keep you posted over the next few months on what's happening. Clark will be participating in our meeting with Representative Barkas this afternoon. So that's what I have. Questions?
All right, let's open up the queue. Does anybody have questions about the legislative priorities work or presentation or timeline or anything? All right. We're all questioned out, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
So
much.
look at me, I gotta-
I was trying not to make eye contact, John. Okay, that brings us to Helen, giving us a report from outside committees. The Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Policy Board. Helen, take it away.
Well, sure, this one's easy because it didn't meet.
Oh, do you want to share
However-
anything else? Because we got cut
Yeah.
short last time, so any.
Oh, well, I didn't really, I think, I don't know if it was included, so, yeah, there's a lot of them, I mean, they've been working really, really hard on the housing issue, and I just, so I wrote up a pretty long thing about that. There was a meeting this, yeah, a couple days ago, I missed it, but in lieu of a growth management policy board meeting, there was a general session on structural racism as part of the series that they've been doing on racial equity. I missed it, but they do have a resource page. You can go and look at that. It's recorded, but there is a syllabus that's connected to that. And one thing that I noticed about that is they seem to be quite interested in the work of the Brookings Institution. It has a race, prosperity, and inclusion initiative where they're really trying to look across a lot of sectors and come up with real world policies for improving racial equity, looking especially at things like things that projects they have going, or things like valuing Black assets. They maintain a Black Progress Index. So they're really interested in this concept of what needs to be done to end the sort of intergenerational loss of equity in so many different ways. And I'll also note that the US Census Bureau has been doing fabulous work on making all of their material available to the general public and to jurisdictions in just increasingly easy to use formats. And they've been doing a lot of their own research on things like racial equity. And I attended a workshop just a couple of days ago that they did on sort of the long-term impacts of the oh boy, I'm forgetting, but when there was in the 1950s, there was a wage board, a national wage board, where the federal government intervened in wages, and they looked at the sort of a 20 or 30-year trajectory of how that kept lower wages up. So, you know, the census is a fabulous resource these days, and I really strongly recommend it to everyone. Get on their notification list, and I'll bet you find something that's useful.
Great. That brings us to the executive director's report. Mark.
Yeah, so I don't have any specific announcements for today, but I just wanted to kind of call out today's meeting and thank you all as members. This is incredibly important work that got done today. We programmed out transportation funds that are going to do some amazing things to help in mobility and equity and efficiency, effectiveness of our region. And then this discussion about citing an airport. This is tough. These are really difficult issues, and bringing together 23 organizations to wrestle with some of these issues is a pretty powerful tool. And so I just want to take my time to thank you all as members for your active, thoughtful participation. These are tough, important pieces of work that we're dealing with. And so thank you all.
Thank you.
Mark. Sure, you don't want to say anything else? I mean, my goodness, we're just flush with time here.
Look, we get time to share today.
Okay, that brings us to member check-in. Now is the time for you to share something from your group, or something you're going to take back with you. Or I'm going to add another wrinkle. If you would like to shout out another member, like cheer for something another member is doing, you may do that as well. Okay, I see Scott and then Bob.
This is actually a quick question for Mark. Is there a copy of that letter that's available that's not embedded in a 400-page document?
Great question. We can send that out right after this. That's a good catch, Scott. Thank you. We will do that.
All right, Scott, and now Bob, member sharing, member check-in.
So I'll do a shout out today. I don't see Michael Cage Kate on the list, but yesterday was the Thurston EDC Economic Forecast Summit held at the Great Wolf Lodge. It was an outstanding event. They did a great job, the EDC, with their sponsors. And if you can make it next year, I highly recommend it. A great event.
Thank you, Bob. Great shout out. Don, you're up.
Just a quick question for you, Mark. Thanks for the discussion on the airport siting. It's a contentious issue. I think a while ago I spoke with you and you were trying to get somebody from WSDOT to come and brief us about the process they've used. Is that still in the offing or not?
Yeah, the challenge there is the chair of that group, David Fleckenstein, has just recently accepted another position. So they are in a bit of a state of flux right now. And so I need to see if I can get a new contact that might come and talk to us about that.
I will just say I happen to know the vice chair. And,
you do, who's going to be the acting chair.
Yes, and he's actually coming out to Nisqually on Monday to give a talk. I'm certain he would be happy to come to this group.
Good, thank you.
And just so everyone knows that's Warren Hendrickson. He has served as the vice chair of the CAC since the beginning. With David leaving, David was a WSDOT employee, David Fleckenstein, and chair. And so Warren Hendrickson, it's my understanding, will be serving as acting chair until their next meeting, which is February, which is also why we've still got time to get any letter in before their next session in February. But would love if Warren was able to come present. And so I will follow up with Port of Olympia on trying to help make that happen.
Thank you.
Good discussions. Don, anything else? Any shout outs or sharing?
No,
All right. Anybody else want to do a share or shout out? Okay, we'll go with Dennis and then Rick.
I have a shout out. It's been 2 months, maybe 3 months, we passed. I don't know exactly what you call it. Everybody needs to sign.
Oh, our interlocal agreement around
There you go. Yeah.
what sets us up at TRPC.
Yeah, and personally, I'm getting tired of getting emails saying sign this agreement. There's 3 holdouts. Start sending emails to those 3 holdouts, or somebody pick up a telephone and call those 3 holdouts and quit bothering the rest of us who pay the rules.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Dennis. Rick.
So in the spirit of the holidays, I'd like to do a shout out for all the fire districts and authorities and their work with the local communities. I know in Lacey Fire District, we're working with the city of Lacey, and we're doing our Santa Mobile, which starts in a couple days and runs through the 21st. So happy holidays, everybody.
Rick. Anybody else want to do a shout out or a sharing from their place? Carolyn, go ahead.
Hi. Well, 2 things, and they're about departures. One, I think I shared with you last time that at Lot, our director is retiring. And so if you have a chance to stop by and wish Mike Strube well, please do. And then hope I'm not stepping on Robin's toes here, but City of Lacey is also losing our city manager, and there will be a community send off for him on the 9th at 3 o'clock at Lacey City Hall. So if you have a little time on your calendar to join us in bidding Scott Spence a fond farewell, please do. Thanks.
Thanks, Carolyn. Clark, go ahead.
Thanks. When you come downtown Olympia to skate at Ole on Ice, do holiday celebrations, check out the intersection at State Street and Plum, where you turn left to head down State Street there. We have the new curbs all in place for really rethinking that intersection. And it goes along with work that was done at Olympia, 1 block further in last year, that's really changing the ease of access to the farmers market, the hands-on museum, Swan Town, the port, the whole peninsula there. So I'm excited that it's finally cast in concrete. It's been a hope to change that intersection for many years. So check it out when you come downtown on the holiday season here.
Thank you, Clark. I did check it out last night, walking home from my board meeting. Looks good. Cheryl, go ahead.
Shout out to the City of Olympia. Thank you to the City of Olympia for helping out with the lease at West Olympia Timberland Library for the next 2 years, starting in May of next year. With also, we are doubling that space in that location because we're able to push out towards the back, which is going to be awesome. And construction for that, or minor construction for that, will begin February 1st of next year. I'm not sure how long the library will be closed. This is important for the region because what we are seeing is, first of all, it's 10th in circulation out of 29 libraries in the 5-county region. And we're seeing people come from all the other 4 other counties, as well as Thurston County, to use this place, this library. So it's just very exciting, doubling the space, another 2 years as we try to figure out with the city what to do on the west side. So thank you, Clark.
Thank you, Cheryl. Anybody else have a share out or a shout out or something they're bringing back with them? Hi, Joe, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. I just want to shout out to all the people that I've seen this past week, all the elected officials, all the non-elected officials as well. at different events. I've seen so many of you. So thank you for your service. And we see each other at these, here and there, but there's so much more that we all do. And I respect how busy your schedule is, and thank you for your commitment and all that you do for the communities.
Thank you, Joe. It's a good reminder for all of us that we have other stuff going on. Any other shout outs? All right, I will do my shout out. The holiday break is a time when some kids and families are traveling and taking fancy trips, and other folks are just staying in town. And I wanted to take a minute to recognize all the folks who make that a fun and enjoyable experience. So intercity transit is fare free, not free, but fare free, for young people to get around town and spend time with their friends who they may not be able to see because school is not in session. And for the City of Olympia and all the events, including Ole on Ice. I also want to give a shout out to the Ole on Ice crew, because they are probably doing yeoman's work coordinating field trips for every single elementary classroom in the countywide area who wants to go ice skating. That is such a wonderful blessing to our community. So thanks to all the folks who make that happen. For the Timberland Regional Library folks, as a West Sider, yes, more libraries. And many young people rely on their school librarians to make book recommendations. We know that kids had a lack of access to books during the pandemic. So as much as we can provide those books for them in their community, thank you so much, Cheryl, and for your whole team for all the things that you do to make reading the center of our kids' lives. And also Evergreen. Evergreen hosts so many wonderful events for kids. And it's a special opportunity for kids, whether it's the Green Congress. My kid's going to Mathletes this weekend, 2 weeks from now. And one of the things that happens for kids when they can visit a college campus for the first time is that they can imagine themselves as a scholar and an adult at the same time. And I'll give that shout out for St. Martin's, because I'm sure they host those things too, but just because Evergreen is here, I want to give you all at Evergreen a shout out, Scott, that requires extra work that is sort of like goes alongside the mission that the college has to educate college students, but also plays a really important role in our community and empowering young people to think about themselves as scholars and the leaders of the future. And I want to thank everyone for the really good conversation today. I love that we can wrestle with difficult issues and remain connected and committed to our shared goal. And I also want to say I'm going to say a strong showing here in person. We're going to go back to meeting remotely, but some of us have talked about really having a desire to have some opportunity to connect with each other in person. We recognize that this particular day and time is not always accessible for folks who have work commitments or other commitments they need to be able to toggle back and forth to. And so we're going to be considering whether we might do some sort of like late afternoon, early evening site visits to some of the cool projects that are happening in municipalities who are all members. So if you have something cool that you think TRPC members should come out and see, please send me an email and I will talk with Joe and Clark, and we'll try and work with Mark to find out some good opportunities for us to connect, to see the work in the flesh or in the chip seal or in the sidewalk. That's all I have. And Joe, I saw your hand up. Do you have anything else, Joe?
Sorry, no, it was an old hand raised.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cheryl is hand up. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I do. And when you were talking about the Evergreen State College, you reminded me that we just had the 20th, I think, Latinx Youth Summit that was held at the Evergreen State College. Timberland Regional Library has been involved in that for 19 of the 20 years. 500 students from across the 5 counties attended this event. And it's a major, major event. And so it involves bus transportation. It takes a whole year to coordinate with the Hispanic Roundtable. Our staff helped coordinate. So shout out to all the coordinators and to the Evergreen State College for hosting this year. It's rotated amongst the colleges in the 5-county region.
Thanks, Cheryl. Just one more good example of all the really great work that's happening from members in our community. So thank you.
Real quick.
Yes, John has something from the great city of Tenino.
Was it Saturday is the toy run down on Pacific Avenue? Avenue will be closed off. This weekend is the Lacey Makers Market and Crafts. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to be, but where they hold their Makers Market. And for tonight we have our tree lighting, and tomorrow we have our crafts fair. Also, Lacey has their Christmas parade on Monday.
So many wonderful things happening. Thank you for sharing, John, and reminding us about the toy run. I see Eileen, and then we'll go back to Joe.
If we're talking about Christmas, I would invite everyone to the Christmas tree lighting that Tumwater will be hosting on Saturday. There's lots of events that'll be going on throughout the day, and then we'll have the lighting of the tree at the end. So you're all invited.
Thank you, Eileen. Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, and very cool, Eileen. We're doing something similar tonight and tomorrow. Christmas tree lighting tonight and Christmas in the park tomorrow. But I did want to say, tomorrow is Saturday. Yelm's going to the state championship for the first time ever, and so we're hoping we can pull off a state championship.
What sports team is that, Joe?
Football,
Okay.
3A football championship, state championships.
Well, good luck. Are we
Thank you,
gonna,
thank you.
let's, I will be impressed if someone can make it to all the tree lightings. I will bring cinnamon rolls again to the next time we meet in person, if someone can produce evidence that they made it to every single tree lighting. Helen, did you have something?
Well, there's one more event to mention. It's today and tomorrow is the Olympia Weavers Guild is having their, I think this is first time since COVID. They're having their event at the fairgrounds today. And it's a really wonderful opportunity to support local arts and crafts. You can get really beautiful pieces there of also, it's not just woven stuff, but other kinds of arts. And it's really fun. Great. So I recommend it as a part of your holiday agenda.
So many wonderful opportunities. All right, anybody else? We have 1 minute. I love all the extra sharing, you guys. All right, well, I wish you all Happy New Year. Have a safe and wonderful wintry day and holiday season, and we will see you all remote. What's the date? Meeting date, the 6th?
No, it's on here. Let me find
13th.
it. Thank you.
We will see you all on the 13th for our January meeting. And we are adjourned.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.